Hi everyone, welcome to All Four Queens 555. It's been a long time and I've been on a bit of a pilgrim, a bit of a journey. And I want to share some of it with you. It's been interesting, as you can see from some of the things that I've posted very early on. And I think if we go right back, before I start, I jump into it straight away, and I have to remember. Um, Welcome to the channel. It's a spiritual channel. It's all about awakening, healing, and the spiritual warfare that unfortunately we go through. And everyone potentially goes through it. Some people see it as battle, or I see it as spiritual warfare and karma. And obviously, if you've looked through the videos, I've also talked around people missing the memo. So, why am I here today? So, I've been around a little bit. Obviously, I had to leave my home. You saw the things that were going on around my home, and I think I'm going to call that one monopoly. And why am I going to call that? Because obviously, the whole cult, whoever moved in. So, hey ho, it is what it is. I'll do a separate one on that. So obviously I go where I'm intuitively instructed to go, and I went down obviously to Glastonbury, thinking that I was going to get the experience, the spiritual experience that we all think about, and I did in a sense. I got what I got from it. I stayed in a really lovely lodge. I got a bit more of an awakening to what really is the world and what isn't the world. But also I was working. And why do I say that? So I think I'm free to talk about it now, and I've sat with it and I've meditated. And whilst I was there, let me just tell you this: while I was there, I managed to connect more with my guides, my inner guide, myself, intuition. But also there were certain things that were happening that was connecting me to mediumship, or whatever you want to call it. So I just want to say I am so grateful to have faith. Do I do a lot enough? Probably not. I should do more. And that's between me and the man upstairs himself, and he's my judge as he is yours, if you believe. But even if you don't, you're still your judge anyway. My opinion. And so yeah, so I sort of had a little bit of time to connect, and also I wanted to get a bit of colour, because as you can see, I'm very pale. I've always been pale as a child, so and that takes me on to the different lineage and things like that, and who I really am, and blah blah blah, and that's a whole new ball game for another day. So I didn't necessarily get to do in Glastonbury what I wanted to do, and why? Because where you go, you followed, and why do I say that? So obviously, people follow you, and they come and they do what they do, and they whatever it is they do, you know. I'm not even going to go there with that one. But so obviously, I've come to another city, Bristol, guided here, and they're all around. So it's great, because obviously there's a song that I want to just say. And you remember, I'm going to ramble a little bit, but those that are understanding the journey understand where I'm coming from. So obviously I talked about the wheat and the weeds, and obviously when things are starting to take momentum in the energy, those that don't want it, or it's going to change their world, obviously come out of the dark, don't they? So they're all hidden in the dark, and then all of a sudden they're out in your face and everywhere, and you can see them. And obviously you can see them anyway as you awake, and you see what's really going on and what's not really going on. So there's a song, obviously the Adele song, and it says, "There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, and it's bringing me out the dark." And that's exactly what it's doing. So for me, when people follow me and come and do what they do, they say new levels, new devils, don't they? And I don't think it's new levels, new devils. I think it's the same people who have joined the same organisations or whatever, around the world. I've had Russians, I've had French, I've had Japanese, I've had Singapore, I've had obviously English, British, I've had Asian, I've had Indians, I've had Malaysians, I've had everything. So for me, it's like they're all part of one thing and they all project and pretend to be something else. And that's absolutely fine. But like I've said on the very early ones, what you stand for it and just stand in it, because obviously to me it suggests you don't. And whether people came for me because I said that, I don't know. So that's a separate bit for another day. So there was something else that I've learned as well is there's a reader on here and he's fabulous, and I hope one day we'll all get to meet. Um, and I've always said I wouldn't say names, and not because I didn't want to promote people, but I just wanted to keep people safe. But I actually think I can start saying it now because they've been in my systems and they're watching people as much as I'm watching the readers, as guided to. And sometimes I watch it for them so they can see what the world really thinks, not just me saying it. But obviously, and somebody said, my queen's eye, thank you very much, a cursed mind. You can't change a cursed mind. And I'm going to change that a little bit to, is it a cursed mind or is it spiritual jail? And I've said in the very earlier ones that whilst people have had all this luxury and all this niceties, and whether they've stolen it or whether they've earned it or whatever they've had, the way you get it is the way you'll lose it. But secondly, it's cursed because you're not stealing from me, the collective, you're stealing from the lineage. You're stealing from the destiny and the plan that was set out, predestined. So for me, you're actually stealing from my ancestors who have, and I've said very early on in the earlier recordings, they've suffered in the spiritual realm because of people's behaviour in the 3D. So they weren't able to get to the light because people were stealing their lineage. So it suggested that they were sitting in karma in the spiritual realm at death. Now remember, Book of Revelations talks about the dead will be judged twice. So my role, generational curse breaker of my lineage, not necessarily the people that I was raised with, but my lineage, was to get those people over the line. And that's what I've done. And I've done that. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that they are now where they rightfully should be. So those that are coming for me now and are coming out of the dark into the light, great, because you're showing yourselves. So now you're on karma's list as well. That's your choice. That's between you and the man upstairs. He's judge and jury, not me. So all you're doing is coming for me, but your battle, because spiritual warfare was created, is now with him. And why was spiritual warfare created? When you look at all my recordings and all the things that have happened, and I've just been listening to TJ Blake's, and he said, some cases you don't talk about what you've gone through because some people would never believe it. My Life, the movie, I think I said that at the very beginning, Cinderella and the Hunger Games and all the things that I said. So you have to ask yourself, are they actual movies or are they reality? So, I'll leave that one with you. So me, remember I said I've had energy weapons. I've had people coming into my house trespassing against me. I've had people taking blood and injecting me with things. So my body has changed, and it will change anyway as we go through what we go through. I don't smoke anymore, and I don't drink. I don't really do fizzy drinks. I mean, I think maybe my diet has always been pretty clean. There are a few things, and I do probably need to do a bit more, but other than that, my diet's been pretty clean. However, I was injected with something. And I do believe I was injected with some sort of disease. And why do I say that? Somebody who keeps watching me on the internet keeps putting certain things to sort of, as a subliminal message. You could say it's subliminal. If you're awake and you understand where I'm coming from, if you're not, then obviously click off or just watch if you want something to watch. So I keep seeing something to do with a clinic. Now, I'm not going to say the name of the clinic because obviously I don't want to put myself in a position that could cause problems. However, I keep they keep showing things to do with the clinic. They keep showing things to do with cars. Now, I know my identity was stolen and people took out a lot of cars and messed with my credit. So, there's all that, and obviously my post was stolen and things like that. So there's a lot of things going on. So the question being, and there's somebody else keeps posting stuff about a medical and blood and stuff like that. So my DNA was stolen, and I know that when I went to the hospital, I was flagged in the hospital, which is why all those people came at me so hard about the mental health and all this crazy stuff, because there was something already in there. And why did they do that? They wanted me out of the way so that they could put somebody else in my place. Well, that didn't quite work from God's perspective, did it? And the ancestors' perspective. So whatever lies have been said in the past, karma's now in play. So I just want to put that out there, because I don't know what I've been injected in, but what I will say, the spiritual savage, hello to you, love you Queen's Eye as well. He said something about, the things that they do, the psychological things that they do. Now, remember, my bullying campaign was about the emotional, the psychological, the sexual, the financial, all the things that people do when they bully and abuse somebody. And obviously, on this journey, they try and make you out to be the problem, even though they're abusing you to put you in a situation where you could potentially spiral out. So, one of the other things I said to you in the very early ones is, why is it that people know where I am before I even get there? So, again, you got to ask yourself the question, who put me in the program? I think I know. I'm getting the intuitive hits. And who injected me and who took my blood. Now, when I went to the hospital, to get clarity that I was okay from the energy weapon. They didn't just take the vial, they took like loads, and the person that was doing it, I felt like I was in a movie, because it was like a critter. He was like, he was just, he just wasn't normal. And I don't mean that in a disrespected way, but they were just drawing blood after blood after blood, and it was like I felt like I was actually giving blood. That's how much blood they took. And that was in the January of 2023, 24 probably. But there was a lot, and at the time I didn't think much of it, because I was just more concerned about getting myself well. But now, in hindsight, I ask myself, why did they take so much? And obviously, I've not consented to any of this. So, I'm just putting it out there. The other thing that I've noticed now, the spiritual savage said something else, was, people walk around with their phones and it's all psychological to try and, make you feel something. Now, from my perspective, yes, it is, but they're also hitting the button on there as well. And every time they do something on this button, it does something to me. Just pointing it out there. Now, there's a few that obviously just hit it to just tag where I am, and whoever wants to monitor me, they're being watched as well, so whatever. But there's also this thing that, it does do something to me, or I think it's supposed to do something to me, because there are some that just sit there going like this. Now, I said in an earlier one, I was in a coffee shop and there was a young lad outside, and he just stood there staring at me, hitting this button. And when I got my camera out, he ran. So for me, whatever that is something. But I'm aware of it. So I just want to put that out there, because I think that what you're finding is that all those who, they already know who we are. That's what's happening. Excuse me, every time I drink. Now, you could say that's why they want to go down the mental health route, because they want to put people, they want to hide people, so it's easy to use that, isn't it? But for me, I have to ask the question, who's mentally ill? So I'm going to ask another question. I'm in a hotel I checked in and I didn't go out the day that I checked in. I stayed in and that was fine. Great sleep. As soon as I went out yesterday, came back, entities everywhere. When I stayed in the lodge, exactly the same thing. So for me, I have to ask the question, who is mentally ill? You don't want whoever it is that said, don't speak to her, don't help her, don't do this. They didn't want me to have any help, but now they can't get out of my face. They're going across my privacy. They're going across my human rights. They're constantly in my internet. So for me, wouldn't it make more sense that if you want a bit of my energy, wouldn't it make more sense to come and have a conversation? But I think the reason why you can't have a conversation is one, because you're now in karma, and two, you can't be in my presence. You want my energy, but you can't be in my presence because my energy is too much for you. So you've got to decide which one is it. Because I see you. So I'm just putting that out there. And the other thing that I'm going to say to you is if you really want my energy that much, why don't you pay for it and have a coaching session? And we can figure out why you can't operate on your own energy and what's going on with you and where you need to heal a little bit. You know, and I've said right at the very beginning, I'm quite happy to help people heal, but all this following me and tracking me and all this, I'm just telling you now that it's just going to create more karma for you. You know, it is. And I think you're feeling it. Hence why you're obsessed with coming into a hotel room. And I've got some more cards to show you as well in terms of what I've been told. I didn't want it to go on too long, but I am going to share this with you. So, my truth blocked the death opportunity that people were trying to do. And what someone decided to do was pick me out to be someone that they were going to abuse. And this is what all this stuff with the phone is. So they were going to try and abuse me and see me to while out and do all this. But obviously that's blocked by the spiritual realm because no one has the power to put karma on someone that hasn't got karma. So when everyone was plotting all those years ago about what they were going to do to me and get me out of the picture because past life they chose a karmic and past life I passed away, this life spiritual realm said no, because I went through my journey and cleared my karma and worked with my ancestors. So the things that I've done in the past have been part of my journey. Now people that were basically being roadblocks, phoning up my jobs, getting me made redundant, and all that sort of stuff, and then creating issues in work and all that sort of stuff to try and create a narrative. All you've done is they've allowed you to do it because all you've done is built up karma. So for everything that you wish for me, because you want to be me, you will now have to live in the shoes and go through everything that I went through, because that is how you get to be me. So they've allowed you to do that and they've let you carry on thinking that, you know, this is a great little journey. You stole my money and tried to steal my life, whatever. Well, you know, I still had a path and I still went down that path. Okay, it was a little more challenging, but teachers have the challenges and we take them with grace. I don't complain to God or my ancestors about the lessons. I actually am grateful and humble for the lessons because that means I can help somebody else who's probably going through something similar. So as much as some of it wasn't mine to take, I take it on the chin and I get on with it. And what I would suggest is that you do exactly the same. Because if you want to be me, you will now walk through the lake of fire that you put in front of me for me to do. Because you're not going to get my glory and my benefits without standing in my shoes. and walking through every journey that you put me through in some cases. Some of it was past karma, but some of it was karma that you put me through because you thought you were being clever. But what you didn't realise is that everything is in the Akashic records. So everything that you put me through and everything that you want to take from me, you now have to go through every journey that I went through. You're going to have to go through homelessness. You're going to have to go through losing jobs. You're going to have nobody around to help you. No, you know, you're going to have people messing with your money, messing with your life, difficult relationships. You're going to have all that now because that's what you manifested. And all I manifested was healing, love, forgiveness, and mercy for all those that thought they could get away with it. And for all those that are coming for me because you're now having to rewind everything that you were because you stole it, take that up with the spiritual realm. You stole from them, not from me. I'm just part of the lineage. You stole their whole lineage. And now, as the wheel turns, it turns the right way. Remember what it says in the Bible? The first will be last and the last will be first. Prophecy. So for me, when you first saw my channel and you cut me out and you wanted to block me, you weren't blocking me, you were blocking God. For me, if that meant the only people that I was being seen by is the cults and the covens, some of them have turned their back. So that was my job. That's what he wanted and that's what he got. So not everybody is now listening to all the lies and the manipulation, the deception. Some people are actually making a choice to go, hang on a minute, I've got involved in all this and now I've got all this coming at me. So, you know, the difference between being a follower and a leader, and I posted that before, take heed and be mindful. Because you've got all these people in this hotel doing all what they're doing and you all get your little rooms ready for me, and I'm so grateful. I feel like I'm some sort of famous superstar that you obviously are obsessed with. But at the same time, when you're watching me and you're doing all this to me, remember, actually, you're not doing it to me, but it's for me. Correct myself. When you're doing all this, remember, you've got to go through it as well. So I just hope that you can transmute it in the same way. And I said in the very early one, you know, if you look at the book of Deuteronomy, generations upon generations upon generations will suffer the karma and the consequences of people's actions because they had the opportunity time and time again to put right the lies and use the law of grace, and they chose not to because they actually thought they were cleverer than God and the devil. And why do I say that? Because the devil even answers to God. And most of the people that have gone off and done all this, they didn't even ask the devil if it was the right thing to do. I think in some cases there's a bit of a power play there because some of them thought they were more powerful than the devil. And obviously he's coming after you now as well because he's under judgment. Because look at Book of Revelations, the devil was allowed to roam, and some people have overstepped the mark and they've cut his journey short because you thought you were more powerful than him. And that's obviously between you and him. But remember, he doesn't administer your karma. God does. Justice and judgment. So whether you believe in the light and the dark or not, and you only believe in the dark, there has to be light to balance. The Book of Genesis says, let there be light, let there be dark. He didn't say let there be dark. So where there's dark, there has to be light. And you choose whichever one you want to be. And that's not for me to judge. Your judgment is with the man upstairs when we all go over the other line. But for me, you can't have one without the other. And you've got feminine and masculine. And the whole purpose of this journey is to balance both and to give people choice. I'm not here to dictate, tell you what to believe or what not to believe. You do what you want. All I'm here to do is show you that there's possibly another way. And on my journey and what I've learned on my journey and the people that I've come across, you know, very judgmental, very judgmental because of the opinions of someone else and all the lies that were spread and the negative stuff that was said. And now I understand from what I see in the spiritual realm myself, people are retracting now and recanting because they realise that the only way to get out their mess is to actually come clean. But you're still not going to get away from the karma because you still did the action. Remember in the earlier one I said thoughts, words, and actions, and everyone laughed and thought I was funny. It was funny, and what does she know, and what does? And then someone moved my platform, and that that you can take that with the spiritual realm. That's up to them and my ancestors, because I believe my ancestors are coming down very hard on you at the minute. And I've said before, where the physical realm is quite easily manipulated with money, and it is, people will get bribed left, right, and centre. The spiritual realm just keeps watching and lets you rack up your karmic debt on top of the debt that you should have cleared from your past life. So I've done the cards, and there are some interesting things that come out of the cards: the secret police, the organisations, the secret societies, all the things, all the people that conspired to sort of put me as the sacrifice. A lot of people have left. A lot of people have walked away to calmer waters. So interesting, isn't it? But yeah, hey ho, it is what it is. So I just wanted to put that out there. I will be doing some more. I'm so pleased that some of the readers, I know that not everyone sees my channel, but the ones that subscribe do, and they're obviously the ones that God wants people to see. But I am so pleased that people are starting to incorporate a bit of scripture in their channels as well. So please keep doing that, because I said before, you don't have to be religious, and you don't have to put a label on whatever you believe in, as long as you have respect for what other people believe in. And like I said before, if you want to dance in the dark, I have no problem in that at all. Just be a little bit honest about it, so that we all know where we stand and what you actually stand for, and what you want from it. And for me, if you want a bit of the energy, just have a coaching session. Be easier, and I get paid for it as well. So that's where I stand. But for those that are using a bit of scripture, there is wisdom in there, there is prophecy in there, and we're seeing it, whether people want to believe it or not. Californian fires, if you look at what's going on, book of Revelations. Now, the only thing that I'm going to say, and I'm not going to offend anyone, because obviously if you're Christian, great. If you're Catholic, great. Islamic, great. Whichever religion you believe in. But all I ask is that you have respect for me, and I like scripture. I do. I have. I was reading the Quran, and I will read the others because I think it's important. I've been guided to, so I have a rounded understanding of it all from my perspective, and then I'm quite happy to have a conversation, and we may agree to disagree, and that's absolutely fine too. That's what life's about. It's not about being told what to believe and then having to believe it. That's what we grew up with, and that's probably quite where most of our traumas are from, or I'd say a lot of mine are. But that's the point of scripture. So for me, scripture is, there is nuggets in it. If you look at the journeys that people have gone through, and you look at some of the challenges that they've had, and the things that they didn't do, and the things that happened, and whether you call it God of Light, or whatever name you want to call it, he put his foot down. And I think what we're finding now, as we change, the world changes, you're going to find that more. But what we're also finding is there's going to be a lot more truth, and people don't like truth because they're not used to it. And there's so many young people out there that have never ever understood God, but they're quite happy to dance in the devil's pool all the time and do evil things. But you still have to pay for it. Nothing comes for free, does it? As they say, whatever we put out is what we get back. And remember, your energy is your energy. It doesn't matter whether you move, it doesn't matter whether you change your name, it doesn't matter whether you change your address. It will still find you because it's energy. And that's the beauty of energy, isn't it? So for me, when you start your day, think about what you start your day with. Do you start your day with how you're going to hurt someone, or do you start your day with how you're going to love someone? Whether they agree with you or not, compassion and empathy goes a long way, doesn't it? So um, I know that's probably quite deep for some people, and some people are like, what the hell is she talking about? And that's fine. And if you want to find out more, then reach out. If you don't, then move to a channel that sort of helps you a little bit more. But obviously, to the readers out there, and I want to mention Australia 5D as well. I don't think on my journey there's loads of readers that you watch because they'll pop up in your feed, and then there's those that are consistent, and there are others as well, and I will mention you as I go along, but those three are holding on to the same. And it's like when I say my story, just confirmation really. It's nothing that I don't know. It's nothing that I didn't know when I was a child. It's just stuff that, when you're being gaslit all your life, manipulated and deceived, and becoming the cash cow for everybody, not just money, but energy as well. You learn very quickly that there are some things that you have to keep to yourself. And they say patience is a virtue, isn't it? And you learn. You just have to learn. And also the things that I've seen, the people that I saw come into my life who were manipulated, and they're so they were manipulated and their weaknesses was used against them, unfortunately, but that was their lesson. And obviously I'm not one to judge. That's the man upstairs to judge when he wants to administer what he's going to administer against it. So, we've all got a journey and we've all got a destination, and hopefully we understand the journey isn't what's done to us, it's what's being done for us. So as I sign off, for all those people that attacked me in my home, I loved my home, and for all those people that came for me with my work in my second house, trying to stop me working and blocking my money and all that crazy stuff that people do, I want to say thank you. And why do I want to say thank you? I want to say thank you because what you did is you made me get off my arse, and you made me turn the wheel. And you made me realise, do you know what? I don't need to stay here for another 20 years. I need to move on. I need to make some changes. So I want to say thank you so much for that, because by doing that, you actually helped me turn my wheel. And for those that did the money spells and the beauty spells and all the other things that you did and whatever you've injected me with to try and test my DNA, I'm going to get back onto the DNA. I didn't want it to be too long, but I'm going to keep going because I don't know how long it's going to take me to upload it anyway, whether I can or can't or whatever, who knows. So for those that did all the money spells and tried to block my money and all the things that you did, the testimony is I want to prove that God does exist. And why? Because these people are in every walks of life. They just don't put a badge on saying I'm part of a cult or a coven. But obviously I've seen them as I've moved around doing my job. They come out of the dark, as it says. What's it say? Reaching a fever pitch, and it's bringing me out of the dark. So they follow me everywhere. So it's great because obviously, you're on Metatron's list now and you're on God's list, whatever, and that's between you and him. So I want to say thank you for that as well, because one of the testimonies I'm going to prove to you is, yeah, my money was draining. I sat back, I couldn't work, blocked my phones, blocked my contacts, blocked everything, tried to stop me coaching, tried to stop me doing my courses, everything, you name it, they tried to do it because they've got the network. And they tried to block the house sale as well. And so it was going on and going on and going on. And then all of a sudden, the person moves and another person comes in. And then all of a sudden the house sale goes through so quickly, you wouldn't believe it. So why do I say that? Because God works in mysterious ways. And if you know the story about the prostitute that he used to help in the Bible, he moved somebody out of the way who was blocking. Now, I'm not saying she was, but maybe, who knows? But it seemed to go on so long. I mean, I started in the August last year and it just went on forever, and it didn't actually go through until this year. So I'm not saying she was, and whatever, but it just seemed very strange that it was taking so long, and somebody else coming in within a couple of weeks it was done. So I just want to prove that, whatever people think they have the power to do, They are not no more powerful than the spiritual realm and God and the angels and the ancestors. And I can testify that into my life. You know, there were times where I've sat crying as a 6-year-old, not understanding why people were doing the things they were doing to me. And I had visions, you know, I had people come and give me some guidance. Probably not so much as a 6-year-old because I didn't really understand what was going on. But you know, they were always there, you know, keeping me moving forward and helping me to learn not to always talk about certain things to certain people. But obviously I'm older now, aren't I? And you know, we say what we want to say, and I love the YouTube community, and I'm going to say I love the YouTube community because it is a community where people know the truth, see the truth, and speak the truth. And you know, being of the world means you're accepting what that is, and coming out of the world means that you speak the truth, you know the truth, and you stand in truth, and you're righteous, and that's all God ever wants us to do, isn't it? You know, and I think he probably would say, and I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but I think he would say that to those who want to be in the dark. Speak your truth. Stand for who you want to stand for and be honest about it. And then that means that you're owning it. Remember the story I told you about being in the restaurant and talking to the man who said he was a wizard? I never questioned it. That's what he stands for. You know, that's what he stands for. But at least he was honest enough and had courage enough to say that. And, you know, I can't not knock anyone who does that. So, and it's usually the people closest to you that don't actually tell you anything, but you see it for yourself. And then all they do is gaslight you and lie. But they're not lying to me per se, they're lying to themselves. And the thing is, everything's recorded anyway, isn't it? So it is what it is. So yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there. And then for all the women who have come at me and men because of the lies and the manipulation and the you know the deception and all that sort of stuff, and now you're starting to see the reality and the truth, and you're starting to understand that what people tell you is not always true. And for those that have apologised, well, apologised in a sense that they've sort of acknowledged that what they went down was not the right path. You know, validation is key, isn't it? Do your due diligence and always validate before you take an action, because that action is your karma. Remember what they say, your karma is what you do. The karma for the other person is how they choose to respond. I surrendered it because there was too many for a start off, and the lie was so egregious and the behaviour was so spiritually violent that I had to surrender it to the powers of be, because I couldn't surrender it to the 3D because they were involved in it. The people that take an oath to protect you and support you were involved in it. And I'm going to give you another example before I go. I went to the hospital because obviously I was in the caravan and I felt like someone was messing with the gas. There seems to be a thing with the boiler. People like to play with the boiler because I think in the past life there was a fire, and you know, they want to recreate it. Well, it's not going to happen, so it is what it is. But anyway, so yeah, there was an issue with the boiler. So anyway, I went to the hospital, and as soon as I got there, you know, they did the whole thing as they normally do. They didn't take blood this time, which was interesting. But as soon as I got there, the doctor, and I can't remember his name, tried to imply, this is how interesting it is, tried to imply that I was obviously a little bit confused and not quite sure on what I was doing because I didn't go to the counter and explain in the way that he said I should have explained it as to my symptoms. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I don't really think that that's really an issue, in the fact that I'm not medical. I don't really know. All I want to know is that I'm okay. Now, where am I going with that? He was trying to go down the mental health route, and I just went, do you know what? Let's not go there. Been down this route. You didn't win the first time, and you're not going to win this time, so let's not go there. I said, but what I will do is on my channel, I will mention it again, that, you know, I said, but thank you for telling me who you are and showing me who you are. And he started to laugh uncomfortably and walked out the room. So, and then another one came in who was testing something in my body. And but the interesting thing was, I went because I thought I'd got some sort of poisoning, and they went and did an ECG test on me. Now they wanted to test my heart, and why? Because all people have been doing is coming from my heart, coming from a chakra. But what they don't realise is I've already surrendered that, and I've asked them to protect the vessel. You know, because this is just a vessel, isn't it? You know, this is just a vessel that we walk around in. As somebody called it, a meat sack. You know, the spirit is the spirit. You know, and if you live by the spirit, then you want peace and harmony, don't you? So yeah, so that's all they're doing. So obviously everybody in here at the minute is just doing the thing, going for your heart and chakra and all that sort of stuff. And you know, but what I will say to that is, you know, whatever this is about, whether it's about, you know, the injections, you know, testing my DNA. Now I'm going to say something about the DNA. The DNA is one thing, but the spirit and the experience and the journey is something else. Now, whether that's past life, this life, whatever you want to call it, that's the whole point. So when you take my DNA and you try and mess with it, they're going to come down and they're going to curse it, because that's their DNA, not mine. So, well, mine I'm carrying, obviously, but you're messing with something that's, you know, a lineage. And for every person that's touched that, you know, medical authorities, governments, whoever, every person that has got involved in that, you've cursed yourself. And I think you know that, which is why you keep following me everywhere. But while you're following me, you're being followed. And whether that's in the spiritual realm or whether that's on 3D, it really matter, does it? Point is, you cannot come for someone who hasn't asked to come for you. And I certainly didn't ask to be in a program. So, you know, I'm coming, trespassing my privacy and my human rights. I'll let him judge that, because obviously quite clearly people on the 3D think it's acceptable. So yeah, lots more I could talk about, and I probably will. But obviously, you know, this journey is the journey that it is. And, you know, when you choose to awaken and choose to do the work that we're here to do, and there's people that want to stop you doing it, then, you know, that's their journey. And I can't really do anything about that. But all I can give you is the warning. And I think I gave that on a lot of the things that I already said, and people wild out because they couldn't understand how I knew. Just because I don't wear a badge saying I know the truth doesn't mean I don't know it. And I did say before, don't judge a book by its cover. I got the memo and I chose to operate with the memo. You obviously got the memo, but you chose to just ignore it. So, hey ho, you know, praise be to God, He does exist. Ancestors do exist. When you get into karma, who's going to protect you? Your ancestors. But when you take them out or you do something against them, who's going to administer your karma? Your ancestors. So, I love yous and leave yous, because I think there's so much more I could riddle on about. Because they haven't been on for such a long time. I will put the cards out again and show you the the harm abuse that somebody decided to put me in, and everyone's going around, you know, coming at me and whatever. But you know, that's between them and the spiritual realm. You know, if they want that to happen, then there's a reason for that, and then obviously they'll get their whatever that comes from that. So, you know, we don't wish karma on anyone, but I do believe in karmic justice. So whatever that means to you. Anyway, gonna love yous and leave yous. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Lots of love, light, and healing. And, you know, let's work on forgiveness, discernment, and intuition as well, because, you know, I handed it. I think what people don't realise is forgiveness was already handed over when I surrendered. It doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean I condone the behaviour that you did against me. It just means I've released it, because it's not my burden to carry, it's yours. So love yous and leave yous, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Bye.